Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your modelers will practically build themselves. Yeah. Oh, good. Good. Come on. Back. Oh. All right. I think we got him. Let's pull in. Oh, man. Well, we won, and that's awesome. Unfortunately, I only took down one other tank with that, but welcome to today's show. I'm Mad Dog Merv, and I've been playing my World of Tanks pretty much every day, just maybe a half hour or so. But one of the tanks that I really have enjoyed playing with is the T78, just something I never knew about. And here it is. This was one of those premium tanks you have to pay a few bucks to get, but I really liked the flag paint job on it. Basically, the T78 is an M24 Chaffee chassis with an M36 Jackson turret and gun on it. Kind of interesting concept, and it was an actual tank that they experimented with, although underpowered, and decided not to go with it. So you'll see these pictures here of the tank that I've got in the game, and I was having some real fun with it, but I want to build a model of this, and I thought for the 4th of July it'd be perfect. So I picked up that Airfix M36B1 in 1/35th scale, and I'm going to use the turret from this kit for the build. And then for the chassis, I've got an M24, the old Tester's Italieri kit, and I'm going to go ahead and use the chassis from this. I won't need the side skirts, but the chassis should work out just fine. So here it is. The chassis is pretty much on one sprue here. I've got the top that I need to put on, and poof, went together quick. I had this together in a couple of hours. The plastic it looked a little bit funny where I glued it. The details on it, well, this is a very old kit, very dated kit, so I'm glad I'm going to be chopping up an old kit, not a nice expensive new kit. But when I went to put the turret on, and you can see down inside here, it looks really nice. It's fairly well detailed. It's definitely not going to fit right. So we're obviously going to have to cut some of that turret ring out, and I wound up having to cut a good, almost a third of an inch out of that turret ring so I could get the turret to fit properly, and it still doesn't fit 100% right. I do have another M24 from a different company that's already been assembled and painted, so I didn't want to use that one, but on that one the turret actually fit right. So it's this Tester's kit. This Tester's kit is a dog. I'm just going to tell you, if you ever want to build an Italieri Tester's M24, don't. So for the other colors, I'm going to use my Aqueous red. This is kind of my go-to red. It's the flat red, and it flows really well. And I'm going to use my Tamiya X2 white. So I'm going to thin these because I'm going to brush paint them. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Tester's or Tamiya lacquer thinner. Now the blue, I went ahead and I airbrushed that Just thinned it with a little bit of the Tamiya lacquer thinner and airbrushed it, and it went out very well. You saw in the previous picture how nice that blue laid down, and I wanted that airbrushed look. However, for the stripes, I was not even going to think of trying to airbrush these. I was going to brush paint them. So that's why I needed it to flow really well, and it did. I was going to do them alternating, didn't work that way. I wound up painting the front part first and then going to the sides. That actually worked out pretty good. You can see how it looks, not too bad. So for the stars, I didn't have any small decals, and I bought this punch off of Amazon, 1/4-inch star punch. I think that's going to do what I need it to do. Put it on some Tamiya tape and punched it, and sure enough, it's going to be close enough for government work for me. Put it down, hit it with the airbrush, and not too bad. I'm going to have to clean some of them up just a little bit, but I like how this looks. Now to finish up all the details and weather this a little bit and see how it turns out. I think it's going to be okay. So for the weathering, I did my usual, give it a coat of Larry's bathwater everywhere, which is just a pin wash, and it kind of gets gets everything kind of dirty looking. Went ahead and just did a light dry brushing of a little bit of desert yellow in with my olive drab paint, Tamiya olive drab, and that's how I do the dry brushing. I get the corners and edges to kind of pop out. So just a wash and a dry brush, and that's all I've done here in the way of weathering. I did take a little bit of gunmetal and just a little bit of chipping here and there on some of the corners and edges, but I don't know that you'll notice it much. Here looking down inside, looks pretty darn good. Now, this mounted a 30 cal in the game. It's got a 30 cal up on top, so I needed to replicate that. And then the 50 cal I put in storage on the back of the turret, and you will notice that as well. One thing you'll notice here is the next to last road wheel kind of sits funny. Well, that's because as I was getting this thing ready for pictures, the idler arm broke, the torsion arm broke, and the wheel fell, and I couldn't find it anywhere in the doghouse. So I borrowed one from an M48. It's a little bit bigger, but it'll work for the picture. Someday, let's hope I find that other wheel on here. I also dropped the 30 cal and lost that, so I had to repaint another 30 cal and put that up here. This was one of those projects I was just really glad to have finished. The tracks are those nasty Italieri vinyl-ish type tracks that you have to use a hot knife to put together. Went ahead and sprayed those with kind of a gunmetal color, and then I went over the pads with a black and just called it good because they are pretty nasty. So anyway, hope you have a great 4th of July, folks, and hope you like this build. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.